Greetings, this is Bradford Townsend, and this is a Forward Research Report, Monday, the 8th of October, 2018. This is a fall 2018 sociological, political, economic, market forecast, and commentary. In my previous forecasts, I said that Donald Trump, way back during the primaries, it's in my previous videos, would be elected president. I was neutral, as that I also put out a video what I thought his presidency would be like, and I also correctly forecast that, and I'd encourage anyone to go back and listen to my earlier videos from a couple of years ago on market forecastings and the elections. I also made a comment that because Indiana has a reserve instead of a deficit, that means we have money set aside in a savings type account versus being heavily in debt, like states like California or the United Kingdom, Japan. Because Indiana is not allowed to borrow money at the state level because we have been bankrupt and insolvent over building canals in the 1800s, and in general, because Indiana and Indianapolis are considered to be exceptionally well managed states and cities. I was correct. Mike Pence, former governor of Indiana, is now the vice president. He's a very well-spoken, bright individual. I was really impressed hearing him being interviewed by the press and by his speeches. He's a talk radio veteran. Indianapolis had a very strong presence in radio with nationally syndicated hit shows, and the WIBC radio station here was the most popular for news and talk, and he was on there for a period of time, and I think that helped him develop his speaking, debating skills, and also network and meet all types of people and keep abreast of the affairs of the time. He also was a congressman. He's a father of three, long time married. He's a graduate of Hanover College. That's a private liberal arts college in southern Indiana, and a graduate of Indiana University's law school in Bloomington, Indiana. Then it wasn't just one Hoosier being in a senior position. Dan Coates, age 75, a former senator from Indiana, also a father of three, an Army veteran, a graduate of the Liberal Arts College, Wheaton in Illinois. He played soccer. He served in the U.S. Army, becoming a staff sergeant during the Vietnam era in the engineering corps. I'm not sure what the Army calls it, civil engineers. He also graduated from the same law school, the IU Bloomington, Indiana University Bloomington Law School. He was assistant to former Vice President Dan Quayle when he was a senator and vice president, and ambassador to Germany, and since the beginning of 2017 has been the director of national intelligence, a relatively new position. The 9/11 attack was a driver of trying to improve the intelligence community and get them to try to cooperate with each other, which is very difficult and really an unreasonable idea. If you have ever been a secret agent, it is very dangerous. You can be tortured to death. the rules of international laws. You can be executed uh, by like a military tribunal, and that is the recommended penalty. Once in a while, spies can be exchanged. A lot of times, spies are just killed, and if they're captured, they're usually extensively tortured before they're killed. So, spies do true spies do not want their identities as a spy, obviously, to get out. So it's very difficult to get intelligence, especially human intelligence, um, information, the facts exchange between organizations, because in doing so, you're always putting your, what they call operatives in the field, in jeopardy. Um, you really, with the intelligence community, it's a trust issue. You just trust that your military and their intelligence apparatus are patriotic and working for the overall protection and to project the interests of their nation that's employing them. Um, as far as with the markets, markets are man made constructs like an office building or a publishing company that publishes books, magazines, websites where they charge money. There's websites that can give you all kinds of information about businesses where they would charge you to find out, let's say, how many print shops are in a certain radius of where you are, um, how many construction companies of various sizes. They aggregate all this information and sell it. So when we look, it is not based on supply and demand, how the stock and bond markets and the prices of important commodities such as iron, copper, and petroleum are priced, because money is not of an intrinsic value or of gold coins. Money can just be created by those in authority within the banking community and the government, and they can buy commodities to drive up prices, which they have no intention of ever taking delivery of, or shares or bonds. And they can also sell uh, stocks and bonds and commodities that they don't own on the markets to drive down prices. So uh, you don't have a price flag type mechanism. Like the price of oil now, adjusted for inflation, petroleum is quite high and really at unprecedented, sustained levels. And since we have had the 2007 high oil, petroleum prices, the economy in North America, the United States, Canada, Mexico, still adjusted for inflation and for population increases. As you have 1 million immigrants a year and still some natural increase in that there aren't that many births, but people are living a long time, so you're still increasing the population by adding babies. Um, if you take the population growth that you would expect, the economy adjusted for inflation still hasn't recovered to where it was before the financial crisis, which was a cutting off of energy into the system. If you look at it as a microcosm, the whole human enterprise with universities, highways, uh, airlines, the whole shooting match is one big living organism, like a giant amoeba. Uh, the energy going in to the system as a whole is was decreased with the high price of fuel. And without fuel, it doesn't matter how much money that they can create by typing on the keys of their computers to make actual, real, intrinsic growth of concrete, substantial objects like a car, a truck, a jetliner, a bicycle, a refrigerator, a toaster oven. You need actual raw materials, and you need energy. Nowadays, a lot of the electrical energy uh, is created by burning natural gas uh, into boiling water, pushing that high pressure steam through turbines, which generate electricity, which goes through a very elaborate power grid that cannot be manually controlled. It requires computers switching at a thousandth of a second, making constant adjustments to this power grid, which in itself is the largest machine ever created, and will probably be the largest machine ever created by humankind. It is the North American um, power grid. If you before I recommended people buying large integrated oil companies because of the dividend, and that they would not be investing heavily in trying to find new oil, or they don't need to build new infrastructure. They have very valuable assets in the ground in what oil is still there to be pumped and drilled and pressured and cracked and fracked, um, is very valuable, and was a low risk uh, investment opportunity. Um, as of now, I think we're getting late enough in the ball game. If American baseball has 9 innings, I think we're well into the seventh inning now, and I would encourage people to take profits on their stocks and bonds to get out of cash and to get into hard assets. What I mean by hard assets, I would recommend that you get into farmland would be the very best, um, not to mortgage it, but to buy it so you own it outright, and to farm the land and try to have at least 50 different produce coming out of the land. You want a very diversified, you want to have cows, pigs, chickens, turkeys, ducks, different kind of cows, horses, um, different kind of apples, pears, peaches. You want to have orchards. You want to grow all different kinds of vegetables that you can in your climate. I would use this good times to build a substantial greenhouse so you can have fruits and vegetables year round if you're in a cold climate. Maybe even do something for the opposite if you're in a hotter part of the country. Maybe build coverings where you have tarps or some kind of fabric or that reduces the sunlight uh, and protects um, the plants, kind of the opposite of a greenhouse. A structure that helps cool uh, the plants, so you can have those types of plants. Um, I wouldn't go with gold or silver. I would go for things like flints, maybe buy hundreds so you can trade those so people can have flint kits where they don't need any fuel, where they can strike across and create fires, water purification, long-term storageable food, canned goods, the equipment to can, and to do all types of manual, non fossil fuel or battery powered um, tools. Hand saws, all types of hand tools, and get the harnesses and equipment to be able to use horsepower and raise workhorses. Um, so practical, useful things, not gold or silver. Turn your digital currencies, dollar, yen, um, euros, liras, pesos, into actual tangible things as the global economy shrinks because it doesn't have the energy to input into the uh, system. Um, it's good to get these things while the getting is good, and divest yourself of abstract paper um, type assets and move away from cities. And you might want to invest $20,000-$40,000 in drilling a well and then have a hand pump or a wind powered windmill to bring you fresh well water and a purification system. Um, Although their energy sinks and they're hard to take care of, and I think people are too optimistic about solar. You could also invest in a solar system that heats water rather than one powered by the solar panels. Predicting when the actual end of the global economy as we know it, it's kind of unpredictable. It's just too complex of a system. It's too chaotic. But we know that every year the ores have less of the desired minerals in them, and that every year major oil fields are being fully depleted, and then you get to a point where you need a minimum of a 3-to-1 ratio of energy returned on energy investment, even to do an energy project, and that's about where the tar sands of Canada are, and the overall global return on energy invested return is down to 12 to 14, and you need 17 to have a United States style, Australian style standard of living where you have a large military and universities and symphonies and um, big insurance companies and advertising agencies and movie studios. Um, so we can't support a lot of these discretionary type activities, and we'll see things like universities and colleges shutting down schools and dropping activities, high schools maybe dropping their band or symphony, and getting more back into basics. And people are going to have to start gardening and growing their own food, ride bicycles, walk, um, and all of our civilization um, needs to be drastically restructured. That's all I have for today. Thank you very much and have a good one.